Okay, I decided to take a break from the 5E3 series and do a little briefing on my new acquisition from eBay, which is a Hammond M3 organ amplifier. Bought it as is. Guy found an addict, didn't really know what to do with it, so he had no way to test it for anything. So I took a chance on it, and so far, everything is looking pretty good. Been taking it very slow. I'm gonna probably actually gut it and rebuild it as a different circuit, but taking it really slow as as I'm new on working on these kinds of projects. First thing I did was pulled all the tubes, didn't come in it, but I traced out a little bit of the circuit to make sure everything coming out of the transformer was okay without the tubes. And then I powered it up and was finding about 56 volts floating on the chassis. However, one second. I was saying 56 floats floating on the chassis. However, it was via the really old, and I was obviously being quite careful moving this at all and plugging it in, and I was using my current limiter over here. Really old 2-prong unpolarized plug. But so I found out, eventually I was thinking, as I just started pulling off different leads of the I think the third thing I took off was the center tap for the primary windings. Then I think I pulled the heater secondary here for the all the preamp tubes, and well, not even preamp, all the tubes other than the rectifier. Then eventually I just pulled all the leads off. And each time I pulled leads off, I would get a little reduction until when I had everything off, I was getting about 40 volts floating. So after a little bit of research, found out it's probably capacitive coupling between the transformer and the chassis. So I hooked a 47 kilo ohm resistor up to my ohm meter and then to the ground terminal of the socket. And I was getting about 0.6 microamps. And of course, voltage then would be dropped to 0 on the chassis. So at that point, I just hooked up a 3-prong cord, which I got a little test cable hooked up here, which obviously got to be careful with because it's all exposed. But so once I had that settled, I started putting everything back in the way it was. Well, first I just tacked these guys in, tacked that directly to ground, and tested the rectifier and that we were getting voltage, which we were. I pulled the leads off the pulled the B plus out of here too, so that it wasn't going into any of the caps. Then I just started putting stuff back together, and well, first I had to, one sec again. First of all, I had to do some research and found some schematics, found a little service manual for these organs online. Then they have multiple schematics for different versions, and I wasn't able to really tie down which version this was as a D letter. But it was kind of between these two eventually. I just started tracing circuits and found out where there were some differences. And one is real easy. It's off the power section here, the power supply section. There's in the version which I have here, which is the D model. A lot of old dust. You got the B plus runs through a 30 ohm resistor. Then it's tapped, it goes into the first stage of filtering, and it's tapped for the, I believe that's where it goes into the center tap for the output transformer. Yeah. And then it goes through a 500 ohm resistor. While as this one, which could have been a field coil, and I didn't see anything that looked like this, but I wanted to make sure it wasn't a field coil. But in any case, it goes from 30 to the first stage of filtering, or it goes off to the Probably again the center tap, yeah. But then it goes immediately into a 3000 ohm resistor. So that's an obvious difference. So tracing it out in the circuit we have here, we have the B+, which is this red wire, which I kind of mangled pulling off with my needle nose pliers. So since it's just temporary, I just threw some tape over the insulation to make sure we don't get any shorts. Runs through this 30 ohm resistor, jumps over to the capacitor, 1/2 of this double can capacitor, and then runs through a 500 ohm resistor. And I traced it out a little further just to be sure, but that isolated what schematic this model was, and it is this schematic here that we are dealing with. So then I just traced out various parts of the circuit, making sure I kind of understood most of what's going on and everything looked like it was in good order. We found our inputs, the non-vibrato and the vibrato, which are down here. And let's see, I traced over here to the phono input down here, and this is the volume control, which is called the expression control on this, loud soft. It's an interesting little design. It's almost like he's got two circuits here, and this one's attenuating, this one's not attenuating, and it has like two capacitive plates. So you have some capacitive coupling between these two, and depending on how you blend the two plates, you get loud soft. It's kind of neat. But yeah, so we got that. And the phase inverter and a pretty standard push-pull system over here. Fixed bias. Screen voltage, which is coming off the power supply after a little bit more. Let's see, where is this? 295, actually. Guess it's not. Oh, there it is. Yeah, so after the 500 watt, the 500 ohm resistor, you got it tapped after on the next stage, which is the second half of that can cap, and then it goes off to the screen for the power tubes. But all pretty standard stuff in there. I believe that system is, I hope I got the term right there, but a cathodoid phase inverter. So you got half the signal coming off the cathode, half coming off the plate, out of phase by 180 degrees, or the push-pull. All right, next, the other thing that we have was, I got that working. I got the normal input working, but the the vibrato input actually depends on another part of the organ, which I did not get, which is this little box here, the vibrato box, or whatever the hell it's called, vibrato line box or whatever, which looks like it's just a bunch of capacitors and inductors. And I don't know what the scanner thing is. I'm not sure if this rotates, so you get different circuits as it spins, or what. I really don't know. Or if it's a selector or what. But I'm going to read this whole document because it's kind of interesting. But I haven't done it yet, and so I'm not sure exactly how this works. But what I was able to find out was that the vibrato channel comes in through B, goes through some amplification here, because I believe this is probably, I think there might be an oscillator or something in the circuit. You can hear it when it's running. That's a phase shift. I'm not sure exactly what's going on with this yet. I have to study a little more, but yeah, it's pretty high off ground. I'm not sure how much amplification you would get off either of these. I got to do a little more study on the circuit, but the vibrato channel comes over here, then goes to C, and I figured out that A and B from doing the inputs are these pins over there. And then I traced out the circuit to make sure it was all making sense, and it was. So the B channel comes through these two tubes, and the signal comes down here to C, which we have a C over here. So if you put the signal into there, you get signal on this pin, which then would be jumped into the vibrato line box, which I don't have, and it would come back and join the amplifier circuit at D. And it would come up here after this first stage of amplification and come into the next bit of the amplifier. And so I found that if we jump C to D, we can at least get something out of it. It's interesting. I was actually able to, at some points, get some neat kind of rock sounds to it, but then I couldn't. It's very dependent on a bunch of stuff. If you change stuff by like touching the terminal or putting an inductor in line with it, or I think having a different speaker on here, because I had just a speaker sitting on the bench for a little bit, but I took that off because I got this old broken amp and wired a speaker line into the speaker, and so I just got a bent speaker that I can use for when I'm working on something and need to hear it. I can plug it into that, and that could just be a permanent fixture on the bench. But so it sounds very different through that too, and when I did that, the vibrato channel sounded very different as well. So I mean, it's a lot of stuff affects it, and I have to look at the circuit and try to figure out what it's actually doing, because it's not a standard amplifier circuit, that's for sure. Like you can see, the voltages here at the cathode are really quite high. Oh wait, that's not cathode, that's the screen. Yeah, it's the screen, but this one's high. This cathode's at a low value, so this is actually probably amplifying significantly. This one is not, because the voltage of the cathode is really high. I don't know what I'd have to trace it out and find out what the voltage is at the plate. There, 295, then it runs through a resistor, so it'll be a little lower, but somewhere around there. So yeah, that's might be an impedance matching thing to lower the impedance for the coming into here. I don't know. I have to study that more. But in any case, we found that, and I'm hoping I'm getting this with the camera angle because I have to keep tilting it. Yeah, so in any case, after I figured out the transformer stuff, verified everything was working there by just powering it up, unplugged, finding out about the voltage on the chassis, getting that taken care of, and ensuring that it was safe. And then doing some preliminary tests, like testing the unfiltered B+ coming off the rectifier, just checking the rectifier tube was good. Then getting everything wired up, doing voltage tests with the filtered B+. Then just installing my tubes, figuring out the input, and getting a signal on it. And it works. So let's plug it in, do a quick check, make sure everything's safe. But we got a little cable taken apart here for our input. Just alligator clipped up. Make sure that's not shorted. We're good there. Make sure these aren't shorted. We got our chassis grounded. We got this just so we can watch the B+. Our speaker terminals here, which we got wired into our little bench speaker now, coming up under the desk. Got our capacitor discharger for later, although this, from what I've been seeing, it drains off the voltage quite quickly once you take power out of the system. In this particular system, let's undo vibrato for now, so we'll just get the I'm calling it clean channel, but yeah, the non-vibrato channel, because I was able to get some kind of distorted rocky tones out of it with the other speaker. I haven't been able to do it with this one. This is for my other voltmeter, so I can measure voltages, which is fine. I'll leave it there for now. Another terminal. Okay, so these aren't shorted. Nothing shorted in here. Our terminals all look plugged up nicely. This is gonna go to C when we want it to. C is here. Let me just get this out of the way if I can. It's easier to plug that in. Especially when I'm dealing with a system like this where you don't want to be touching stuff that you know isn't good. I like things to be accessible. If I'm going to be anywhere near it, I want the power plug to plug in. So everything looks good here. We got our guitar. And so let's plug it into our current limiter, and I plugged it in throughout the current limiter because through the current limiter I'm definitely not getting, I'm getting lower voltage. I'm getting like one, I can't remember what I measured, one something on once everything warms up, 100 and like under 110 on the input on the mains. So my B plus is running low. I'm sure all my voltages down here are running low. So I plugged it directly into the mains after I'm sure everything was working right, and the voltages look good. So it's just that it's running through the current limiter. In any case, flick the switch on the current limiter, and we see our voltages coming up, rising up to about, probably get up to near 400 before it starts dropping, 370. So it starts dropping as current starts flowing. As the tubes warm up, and with through the current limiter, it's been stabilizing somewhere around 280, 275-ish. So we're energized. And let's see about signal. We have signal. So, see, it is functioning. And then if we plug this into C to engage the vibrato channel, we get this. And obviously it's not functioning as intended because we don't have the vibrato box, but It's actually kind of fun to play with, to be honest. So yeah, a little interlude from the, let me get this safe. Voltage rolling off quite quickly. I'm down to 7 volts on the 5 volts, so that's perfectly safe on that cap now. This bias cap actually held its voltage a bit last time I was running this. Didn't do it this time. Pretty sure this is part of the bias supply here. Oh, come on. Really? Okay, good. Okay, so caps are all down to safe levels. So this is a safe amp at this point. But I like to plug in my cap discharger and just leave it just for the hell of it. If everything's off, and pull the power plug. Ground that side, plug that onto the B+. And so yeah. Anyways, as I was saying, I'm taking a break because I a dummy. I think it's because I was heating the oh yeah, well, also I have a bunch of backlog videos, and I got stuck on trying to write a bass line for something, and I just wasn't able to come up with anything, and I was starting to procrastinate. So I'm going to shelve it and just write some new stuff for backing tracks, but I'm probably going to do that a little later today. But in any case, so I got a backlog of videos for that reason to do on this, but otherwise you can see it's pretty much done. But like a dummy, when I was putting in this preamp, I think it's the one. No, this one. I already removed the pen here, because I think it was because I was heating it from the back side and feeding solder in from the other side, and I wasn't it was sucking it in, so I couldn't really gauge how much I was adding. And yeah, I poured solder into the pin, so I had to pull that out, drop the pin out. Couldn't find anywhere to buy pins, and Mojotone was not getting back to me, their tech support, which was kind of annoying. I asked them if they had any idea where to buy them. So I just bought some new sockets, and I'm going to pull a pin out of one of the sockets. $2, whatever. But, yeah, so that's where that is. It's going to be, coming. Just, yeah, they finally shipped it. It's going to, parts are going to be here on Tuesday, I believe it is, so I can start working on that again. This is probably going to get shelved for a little bit. I may play around with just this circuit for a bit and see if I can't have some fun with that vibrato channel, doing something to it. Eventually, though, it's going to be gutted, and I'm going to do a whole new circuit. But, yeah. It's like a pretty good buy. I mean, the transformer, these two transformers alone are a considerable amount of money. All the tubes seem to be functioning. Got these, which I don't know if maybe I can purpose it into something. The little percussion transformers. I don't know if I can or not. But maybe. Can't remember what this transformer is, but another transformer. Who knows? Maybe I can find a use for it. Probably not, but we'll see. And it's just fun to work on. I mean, I think with shipping, I definitely got my money's worth with the tubes and the transformers, but you can probably do better. But I wanted a project, and I didn't do bad, I don't think, especially since everything works. So yeah, that's where we're at. In any case, I'm gonna sign off. Probably gonna start getting shit set up for recording and try to make some new tracks for backing. Probably just gonna do some real simple stuff that I've been learning that are just kind of traditional pieces, not doing an original thing. But we'll see. Maybe I'll do an original thing as well, and then just do some little finger picking pieces to fill the space. Anyways, that's it.